In the first canto, third chapter, there is a list of 22 incarnations of the Lord given. In the very first incarnation is Shakti Avesh avatar. Avesh actually means the Lord empowers a jiva to do something great. So they are the four Kumaras. So the four Kumaras, who are the first children born of Brahma, they exemplified very severe austerities. And they stood for knowledge potency or Jnana Shakti. And there Srila Prabhupada writes that the importance of the austerities. So if you go to the fourth canto, 23rd chapter, 7th verse, 7, 8, 9, those verses if you see, Prithu Maharaja's severe austerities in the jungle are explained. It is said that there are two pushings from inside our system. One pushing is from the intelligence, another pushing is from the prana. The intelligence pushes the mind and the senses. So those who have purified intelligence and one-pointed intelligence, they can very easily subdue the fickle mind and the impure senses by focusing the intelligence on spiritual subject matter. Like we say, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, Chittite Koryaikya. So then one can subdue because the intelligence is connected to mind and the Jnanendriyas. And the prana, actually prana exists between the gross and subtle body, and the desires of the subtle body are translated into the gross body through the prana. So the prana pushes the hands, the legs, the genitals, the rectum and the speech. These 5 karmendriyas are pushed by the prana. So to restrain the prana and restrain the intelligence, Prithu Maharaj performed severe austerities, like living in the forest away from the madding crowd of the city. He was initially eating tasteless fruits and then dry leaves and grasses, and then he drank only water for a month, and then eventually he only breathed air. In this way he restrained his eating habits. Then there were heavy rains pouring from the sky. He did not go for any shelter. He sat right under the heavy rains and the cold and the heat of the sun and all these things. Severe austerity for the body he adopted. And there Prabhupada writes why he did this. Because one has to get rid of bodily consciousness. And he performed the severe austerities for the express pleasure of pleasing Krishna. Ari Radhesham Krishnam Acharata Potama. To make his semen move upwards and become a Urdhvareta Jitanilaha. He says, to make the semen move upwards and also to restrain the urges of the body and to get rid of the bodily consciousness, he did this. But there Prabhupada gives one good news for the devotees in their purport. In Kali Yuga, we cannot perform all these severe austerities. But only 4 things Prabhupada says we should do. We should always live in the association of devotees, surrounded by devotees, rendering devotional activities like worshipping the deity, chanting the holy name, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, and delighting in the path of devotional service. This is one condition, he says. Secondly, he says, eat only prasad. Don't eat anything else. Sometimes people think you take some Jain food without onion, garlic, and you put some tulasi and take it. You will only develop detachment. You will not develop attachment to Krishna. Because the food cooked by a devotee and offered with love is impregnated with love for Krishna. So one should only eat prasad, that which is offered to Krishna by devotees. That's second thing. Third, he says chanting of the holy name should be taken very seriously. We cannot fast only with air or water and eating dry grass and all these things we cannot do. And we are not expected to do in this age of Kali Yuga. But instead one should intensify the chanting of the holy name and make it more serious and sincere. And following the 4 regulative principles very strictly, he says. These 4 things, if a devotee does, that's equivalent to performing the severe austerities done by Prithu Maharaj in the age of Satya Yuga, he says. So, what is the purpose of austerity? And the austerity cleanses the mind and heart. It purifies and eventually leads to Brahma Saukyam. Tapo Divyam Putraka Yena Sattvam Shuddhyet Yasmat Brahma Saukyam tu Anantam. So one should not, that Prabhupada says, devotees should not at all resort to overeating. That's where he writes that. He said, not at all resort to overeating, he says. That means if a devotee is performing devotional austerities like these 4 items, living in the company of devotees and doing devotional services joyfully, and also eating only prasad and not overeating, and chanting the holy name intensely, and following the 4 regulative principles strictly, and then a devotee can conquer the lower nature of the urges of the senses and mind and the jnanendriyas and karmendriyas, and one can withdraw oneself and be able to get samadhi in Lord Krishna's Nam, Rupa, Guna, Leela and all these things by not identifying with the gross and subtle coverings over the soul. Then we can understand Jiva Sarupa Hoy, Krishna Nityadas. And then our chanting of the holy name will eventually not only cleanse our impurities, that is only the early stage, but later it will awaken love for Krishna, intensity in loving attraction to Krishna. Harinam Prabhu ki. Let's offer our humble obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like the satyrs or ocean of mercy, full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnava vrinda ki, Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki.